I met my wife 15 years ago and we instantly fell in love. After 4 years, we got married and we have a 7-year-old son. For the last couple years, my wife showed signs of unhappiness, but we always tried to solve our problems. After she became a mother, she quit working and focused on our son. During summers, she would go to her hometown by the sea, live with her parents as summers in our city was not easy. As years passed, this started becoming an issue as I would see my son less and less. It was not easy to travel all the time. After last summer, she became more vocal about our problems, but I couldn't understand. We always tried to solve the issues, but this time it seemed she didn't want to solve these issues. She started big fights in front of our son, and she started saying she wanted a divorce. At the same time, she started telling lies about her location. She started coming home late. She put a password to her phone. In first week of December, she started divorce proceedings without informing me and got a restraining order for me with the assistance of a lawyer. I never hit her or threatened her. There was no real reason for such a restraining order, but our laws allow any woman to get these orders without any solid evidence. So, I started staying with my brother and I found a lawyer as well. As per laws, I had about 6 weeks to reply to my wife's first petition. While all these happened, I was asking my son some questions about her mother, where they went, who they met, etc. Some of the answers included his best friend's father, but I never put any meaning to this as his wife was my wife's basically best friend, and the restaurant they met was a place we went frequently together, and the guy knew the restaurant, the owner, the waiters pretty well, so I thought it was a coincidence. Such coincidences had happened in the past as well. At the same time, this guy together with his wife and their son had come to our house. We went to holidays together and he knew me quite well. We even went drinking, just two of us, for a number of times. So, it was not suspicious for me. After she filed for divorce, I started looking for ways to find what she was up to. She stopped telling me where she was, what she did. She would ignore my calls and messages occasionally. For a couple times, I went to the street of our home and the lights were off. My son's tablet was connected to my account and I would see his location, but it was always home or offline or a few places I knew, but one evening it showed a location unknown to me. The neighborhood only had bars and restaurants, so I directly went there and started looking inside the restaurants from outside. And I saw them, my wife, my son, and the father of my son's best friend. I didn't go inside and I directly called my brother. He asked me to remain calm, take pictures, and watch them from a distance. I did just that. Before this event, I had asked my wife to have a lunch with me to discuss stuff. I wanted to solve or understand the issues during this lunch. I decided to go with the plan in any event. So we met, we had lunch. She was quite strict. She didn't want to reunite. When we were leaving, she went to WC and left her bag with me. I checked her phone and guy's name was saved as my cherry blossom, I was sure. As I had realized what was going on, I started looking for more evidence and I found he once picked my wife and my son with a cab from our home. They went to at least one hotel together with my son. I had shared this information with my lawyers. They made their investigation as well and confirmed this affair. In about 3 weeks, my lawyer called her lawyer and said that we had learned about the affair. Before this, my wife insulted me and my family every day. She would ask me to spend time with our son. Her requests on her divorce petition were enormous. She wanted me to pay the rent, all utilities, gas for her car, all expenses of our son, and an enormous amount of alimony. Following the call, she stopped talking to me for a few days. I guess she was embarrassed to talk to me. 5 minutes, 6 days later, she sent a message saying that our son was in hospital. I called her but didn't speak anything about the affair at first. After a few days, she said she wanted to talk to me. We met. She directly said she was sorry and that she didn't want a divorce. She said there was nothing between them. I gave her some clues about the evidence I had, so she had nothing to say. She said she would withdraw the case. In 2 days, she did. At the same time, she went to her hometown again. In a month's time, she didn't talk to me in general except topics our son. I went to that city, talked to her, said I wanted a divorce and gave her my conditions, but she threw her coffee to me and left. After she left, I called the guy and started shouting at him. Just at that moment, my wife's brother was walking in front of the coffee shop. He came and asked me why I shouted. I told him his sister was having an affair. He said he knew. I talked to my wife's father without telling him about the affair and said it was his daughter's fault, but they couldn't convince her to return. After a few days, I called her father and told everything about the affair. He is an angry guy and kicked her out. So she came back home with her mother. Although the restraining order was over, I still stayed at my brother. 3 minutes, 4 days later, I picked my son and went to see a football game. During the game, her mother sent a message to me saying she was going back to her hometown and that had nothing to with me. Her daughter didn't get a lesson. I called her and she confirmed she was gone. When I was going back to deliver our son, my wife called and said she was going to her mother's cousin together with her mother and that they would stay there that night. I told her that her mother was gone. She was quite furious. Following this, I started staying at home again. She found a job. We found a nanny for our son. For a few weeks, we were okay. We even kissed each other and hugged, but 3 weeks later, I got fired due to a lack of concentration. As this was caused by the divorce and the affair, I got very angry and kicked her out of home. She started staying at the nanny's house, which was 5 minutes away, but she also came to our home almost every day. After about 5 days, I saw messages on her phone between her and her lover. She found a place to stay, but her salary was quite low and it was not enough to pay her salary and other expenses at all. During these time, she could pick up our son whenever she wanted and he stayed at her during weekends mostly. By the way, I need to tell about the wife of her lover. They got divorced but they lived together for a while. One day, I saw her in front of our son's school and I found out that she knew about the affair as well. She learned the affair following their divorce. She called my wife but she didn't answer. She kicked her ex-husband out of home. She told me she was suspicious before the divorce but she didn't do anything as she wanted the divorce for the last few years. She told me about some of her suspicions and I checked they were correct. 2 months later, my wife took our son but didn't answer my calls during the weekend, and on Monday, she blocked me. I couldn't reach her, but I learned she went back to her hometown. She filed for divorce again, but due to laws, she couldn't use any of the reasons, allegations, or events from the first suit. So she had nothing to say against me. It was just that she didn't love me anymore and didn't want to stay married. I filed a countersuit with infidelity allegations. For 4 months, I couldn't see my son. At this moment, we are still looking at an 18-month-long suit for divorce. She now says she will pay all the compensation I want for divorce. TLDR, my wife filed for divorce. It turned out she was having an affair with the father of our son's best friend.